Good evening, everyone. This is Henry Gambell with simpleroptions.com, and in tonight's free video I wanted to go over a couple of names here very quickly in the way that I've been doing these here as of late. Looking at the three names that I covered in last night's free video, you've got MRO, STZ, and then coming over and taking a look at Microsoft. And the analysis that I gave in last night's video I feel like stands on all of these. So if you're interested in these names, you can go back to that, get a little more information, and I'll continue to follow up with those in these free videos. As far as looking at some other fresh ideas, there is one place that I'm definitely interested in right now, and that's XLU. So when you look at XLU, we've got a situation where the squeeze is developing, and by pulling back down into the 50-day moving average, this is the first area that I start looking at for support. So of course, if we're going to come over to these ETFs and we want to try and find, are these names going to be able to hold these support areas? Dropping down into the most heavily weighted components is one of the most immediate ways to do that. So NEE is the most heavily weighted component of that ETF, and you can see, okay, ETF comes down into the 50-day moving average, NEE comes back down into the 21. These are areas that I would like to see these markets start catching a bid. If not tomorrow, then I could give them into Thursday. And of course, keeping in mind that a witching expiration could be a little bit choppy, but it's really just saying that this is the area that we need to see names like NE start finding support. Then you drop down into Duke Energy, and this is a very similar story. You know, you're looking at this and saying, well, the squeeze is fired short, but it's done it down into an area that I would consider to be relatively significant support. Now, of course, it would be nice if the 100-day moving average held, but more what I look at is anytime you have a very significant run higher, just acknowledge the giving back, 618% of that, anywhere inside this zone, that's your normal average pullback. Now we need to see that this area does hold as supports to help confirm that this overall prevailing trend is still intact, and this will be an important place to focus as we get into tomorrow. The third that I'm going to be looking at in a very similar way, just the third most heavily weighted component, is Dominion, and it's just the same thing in this where I'm looking at these trends that are doing a decent job of holding. I would like to see that pattern continue to play out, and then that will allow me to get a little bit more exposure in some of the more heavily weighted components, and then potentially the ETF as well, depending on how those trade. So I think that method of top-down analysis and starting with an ETF as a whole and then coming down into its individual components is a very helpful way to analyze a market. If you'd like to look at some more of that, John's going to be doing a free webinar tonight on this type of analysis. And if you're interested in that, that'll be starting at 7 p.m. Central, and you should see a link after this. So I hope it's helpful. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you at the next free video.